Well, it's a really exciting time for our guys to focus in on finishing the semester strong, and we've got about 4 weeks in between now and when they'll get a little bit of a break over the holidays. And over that time, it's extremely important for us to put everything we have into a couple different things. Growth, that's team growth, that's individual growth, that's cultural growth, and then carryover being the second thing, carryover in the games themselves to go do the things that we work on doing every day in practice. We really learned a lot in New York. I think the biggest thing being, our team's at its best when we completely lose ourselves in the fight, and that's the only way that we can, truly be the team that we want to be. So focusing on the present moment, what's important now, focusing on our teammates, making the guy next to you better, through your energy, through the leadership that you give to our team, and then just focusing on the present challenge, whether it's stopping a guy from scoring or competing for a rebound. Those are the ways that you can lose yourself in the fight, and when our guys do those things, they're really, really good.
Questions, please raise your hand if you'd like to. Dustin on your left.
In New York, we saw a lineup sometimes of Kai and a big guy, mostly Jericho,
Yep.
in that 4 or 5 spot. Is that something that you liked and you think you might have to do more, particularly when you play a team like Georgetown that has so much length and size
Yep.
and physicality?
Well, I think Kai is playing better and better. He's first and foremost practicing with more violence and more aggressiveness and more attention to detail over the past couple weeks. He's always been a guy who's put in a lot of extra work. That's never been an issue with him. But he just seems to have grown some in the last couple weeks in terms of his focus on being able to do in the game some of the things that can help us win. So if he continues to progress, then we'll definitely see that lineup more and more. He has great athleticism and length, but he needs to continue to get stronger. That's going to take time. So having him out there with another, big that's maybe sturdier and stronger and more experienced than him is probably the best way to go.
Follow-up list?
Hey, John.
Go ahead, Brian.
Shaka, what was your main
John, you
takeaway
got
from
it.
the second half of Georgetown?
Hey, Texas said they're not seeing their.
You called that one, Scott. I would say, first of all, I think Georgetown's really good. If things would have gone differently, I think they would have won the next night. I won't get into that because that has nothing to do with our team, but they really did a great job being the aggressors. We had a 5-point lead at the half, but we really hadn't defended them well in the first half. We had made some shots, and they came out extremely aggressive, went inside. I think what really was able to get them going in that half was their ability to offensive rebound and get second and third shots. So that's something that we need to continue to get better at. Did a much better job of rebounding with physicality in the second game. And then offensively, they really, took the fight to us from a physicality standpoint. The officials really allowed it to be a physical game. And, I don't think that we drove with the aggressiveness we need to drive with the physicality we need to play with. I don't think we cut hard enough. There was just a tentative nature to us that really worked against us in that second half, and that ended up being a big difference.
When you say that, how much of that do you put on Matt, Courtney, Jericho? These are your veteran guys because these are the winnable games that you guys should be winning.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest difference between sitting in your seat and standing here or with our guys.
Right.
Should doesn't do anything for you. Who should win tonight, the Spurs or the Lakers? It doesn't matter. That's why you play the game. And so should we have beaten Georgetown on paper? You might say we should. I'll tell you this, Georgetown felt like they should have won. And they went and played better than us, particularly in the second half. So that's been a huge message, Brian, actually. I'm glad you brought it up. But to our players is, guys, if we go by should, we're going to have some problems because it's all about what you go do. And we didn't play well enough in the second half of that game to win. Now, early in the year, as important as anything is taking lessons, from games like that. And, when we got back from Las Vegas last year, we lost some games, couple games that we should have won. And that hurt our season. And so we had a war of a practice yesterday to make sure that our guys understand we are going to utilize the lessons we learned in New York and our 4 games previous to that to make sure that we move forward. And, again, I use the word carryover because you can get better in practice and you can, make progress with your individual skills and your team, components of what you do. But if you don't go out there in the game, next time for us being Saturday, and execute it and carry it over, then it doesn't matter. And that, again, that's where should can hurt you. So that's where we are right now.
Cedric, on your right.
Shaka, I don't remember which game it was, but Kai threw it out a dunk in New York, and your bench went crazy. Is it one of those things where they kind of understand what could be on the interior and how important that could be moving forward?
Well, I think it's just an exciting play, and Kai's a guy that I think people root for him because he's a great kid. He puts a lot of extra time in. He's excited to be out there. He's appreciative of opportunity, and he's just in that play put his chin on the rim. So, guys really enjoy seeing that. I think Jericho had one in New York that guys got fired up about as well. Kai has as much or more potential than anyone on our team. I would say Kai and Donovan Williams, their ceilings are the highest of any players on our team. But they're also the youngest and the least experienced. And so we always are trying to balance like what we can do to create progress and growth for them with trying to win this possession, whether it's a game in New York or, Saturday's game. But I do feel like all 3 of our freshmen are making incremental progress. They're all different, but just to group them together as a group of young guys, I think they're guys that if they can settle in and play basketball the way that, we think they can with a level of poise and confidence that they can help us over time.
What's going on with Courtney? Is he pressing, or is it just one of those things that he's in a rough patch as a sophomore?
Yeah, I think he's dealing with some of the sophomore challenges. He really, really wants to win. I thought his attitude and his team orientation in the second game we played in New York was terrific. I mean, he was in the middle of our huddles clapping and trying to fire guys up and get guys to play with the requisite level of enthusiasm. And so I really appreciate that because he wasn't shooting the ball particularly well. And so sometimes guys are really fiery and excited when things are going great for them. But he's a really good player. He's not played that consistently yet. Part of it is taking the right shots the right way, which has been an emphasis, with him. Part of it is he missed the larger chunk of our preseason practice, so he's still kind of working his way back to every day being out there and getting to that tip-top shape. I think he gets tired sometimes, playing extended minutes. But I'm optimistic about him, making progress as long as he continues to attack every day, and he's still a sophomore. He's 6 games into his sophomore year, so he did get a ton of experience last year, but he's not he's not a guy that's played basketball in college for 4 years. And I think that what we're seeing right now is part of that journey.
Kirk in front.
As far as front court scoring, what are your expectations of what you'd like to see offensively from your front court on an average night?
Yeah, we don't really look at it in terms of what we need them to average. It's more about just efficiency. So, for instance, Jericho's effective field goal percentage is 67.7%. 67.7%, which is the same as his field goal percentage because he doesn't shoot threes. But if he can be in the high 60s all year long, that's terrific. I believe he was 6 for 7 in our second game in New York. So we're looking for that. You know, we're looking for our front court to be very efficient and to finish around the basket. We need those guys to offensive rebound more. Jericho did a great job of it against Cal. You know, when Gerald Liddell's at the 4, we want him to offensive rebound. We want Kai to offensive rebound. We want Royce. We want Will. We want all those guys that are in there to go get us second and third possessions. That's something that we need to do a better job of. You know, I think, again, those guys taking the right shots the right way is important. You know, if you combine all of our big guys, you know, none of them have really shot the ball well from outside, the ones that do shoot outside shots. That doesn't mean they shouldn't ever take them. It just means that, you know, we want as much as we can to get those guys in the paint and shoot high percentage shots.
Does that put pressure on your guards? I mean, it's a guard-driven team, obviously, but does that put excess burden on them to handle most of the scoring? I
mean, the goal is for Texas to have more points than the other team. So if a certain percentage of those points come from the backcourt, that's fine. You know, you certainly want to have diversity there, to your point. I think that Jericho is a guy that's capable of, you know, scoring 8, 10, 12 points any time out or even more in certain games. That gives us a big lift when he does. I think Will Baker, in time, as he plays more and as he plays better and as he gets comfortable and more confident, is a guy that can put the ball in the basket. You know, Gerald, I think of Gerald as a guard, but, I mean, we play him some at the 4. You know, when he scored 14 points at Purdue, that was a huge lift. It just, if you're playing, depending on the lineup, if you only have one big guy in there, then the majority of your scoring is going to come from, you know, 4 as opposed to 1. So, but it's definitely an area that we want to continue to cultivate. And again, it comes down to being as efficient as you can as a team. That's an area where we need to get better. I think it's the last 4 years, the team that's won the Big 12 has had either the best or the second best effective field goal percentage in the league. So it's about helping our guys raise that number up over time.
Any other follow-up, Rick? Use mic, please.
As far as Liddell, how do you think he did? What are you looking for him moving forward after 6 games?
I think his best game, he didn't play in our first game, so Purdue was his first game, and I think that was his best game of the year. He really did a great job of just playing with an aggressive, confident, and loose mindset, attacking, and you know, just going to make plays. I think he's had some frustration in some of the games since then. You know, the way that teams guard him sometimes is backing off of him and daring him to shoot. He's clearly a better driver than he is a shooter, but he's shooting 50% from 3. Now, he's not taking nearly as many as some of our other guys. So we want him to take good, wide-open threes, particularly if he can continue to shoot a good percentage. I really think Gerald can be a huge, huge key for us. He is very versatile. He's a guy that can rebound. He can create for other guys. But I think similar to, you know, some of the other guys on our team that we've talked about, it's about him just taking an aggressive, attacking mindset. And there's been times that this year where he's done that. Purdue's the best example. There's been other times where he hasn't done that as well. Listen, all these guys want to play really, really well. They actually want to play well more than you want them to play well. Even more, maybe as much as I want them to play well. So sometimes that can work against them when it becomes all of a sudden a pressure and an avoidance, like to not play poorly. And so that's their responsibility as big boys at the college level to step forward and say, okay, hey, I'm going to own this and I'm going to do what goes into playing well. but it's also, it may be simple, but it's not easy. And these guys are young guys. A guy like Gerald, I mean, I don't know how many minutes he played total last year, but he's probably logged like, somewhere between 200 and 300 minutes total in his whole college career. That's not many. So as he gets to 300, 400, 500, 600, he's going to play better. And because he's a good kid who works his butt off, he's improving. He's really, really bought into winning and team. So that's a recipe for growth, but it is going to take some time.
You've talked a lot about aggressive and attacking mindsets, but you've used a word a couple times this year that maybe it's new. I'm curious if it's new, attacking with violence.
Yeah.
Is that something that's new, and what does that mean? Like,
No,
when you
it's
talk about that. Is that
It's not new. It's I guess I haven't maybe used it publicly as much before. Don't want it to be misconstrued in any way. Football is thought of as a violent game, but basketball is also a game where if you can play with controlled violence, it can really work in your favor. I mean, there's so many great examples of that at the highest level of basketball. But there's a Navy SEAL term that I learned from a friend of mine who's a former Navy SEAL called violence of action. And I don't want to mess up the definition, but it's basically the mindset of like when you go and do something that that is part of your mission, you're doing it with just a complete violent mentality, just a ruthlessness towards going after whatever it is you're trying to go do. And so, we've done what we call VOA training with certain guys that we feel like need to be more that way. Listen, it's a spectrum. If violence is over here, then on this end of the spectrum is, what some people call soft. And, that, again, works against you in a game like basketball. You just, you're going to get taken advantage of by the better players and the better teams. So trying to move some of these guys individually and then us as a team this direction. Again, without fouling, without putting yourself in the wrong position because you're so out of control.
Dustin, front left.
You guys are 330th in free throw rate and 48th in three-point rate. Do those numbers need to change to get similar in order for the offense to be more efficient?
Well, in order for us to be more diverse, I actually don't mind the 48th, but again, with that 48th, you want your three-point percentage to go up. Which, I mean, if you look over the years here, our percentage has improved as the year goes on. So that the 48th is fine. I mean, I wouldn't mind being number one on that if you're shooting a high percentage from three, because then again your EFG is pretty high. If you shoot in the high 30s from three, you're in business. If you're not, then that's where you need those free throws. That's where you need those 2-point shots around the basket, just to score more points. So definitely want to get to the basket, get to the line more, want to get to the basket more. Against Cal, we had our best, what we call paint touch ratio of the year, which is the possessions we get in the paint to the possessions we don't get in the paint. I believe it was 2.75. The goal is 3. That's really, really high, 3-1. But when we get in the paint, I don't care what the team is or what the year is, you typically score a higher percentage, and you certainly get to the foul line way, way more. I do think, a lot of these games and even some watching certain other games that don't involve our team, it's interesting. There's the points of emphasis, that they make for the officials going into the year, and then sometimes there's what happens. And I think a lot of games are, there is a level of physicality and kind of play through it. And that'll be an ebb and flow as the season goes on. But our role that we can play in that is, driving with more violence, with more aggressiveness, with more toughness, finishing through contact better, or at least trying to attack the defender to get that foul. But certainly we want to get that free throw number better.
Do you look at the three-point percentage right now and then also look at Courtney's percentage and say, if he's shooting an average rate that he shot last year, our numbers could look?
Not just Courtney. Andrew Jones is shooting 30% from three. He's a better three-point shooter than that. Jace Febris is, I think, 35. Those are our three best shooters. If we did a shooting drill, Jason, Andrew, and Courtney. But those are, of the guys that have played significant minutes, our bottom three effective field goal percentages on our team. They also happen to be 3 out of our top 4 shot takers in terms of number of shots. So, yes, a huge emphasis for us offensively is to help those guys raise that number and get in position where, again, they can take the right shots the right way. It is a fine line with being aggressive, confident, and loose, because you want guys to have a mindset of not needing to look over at the bench and see, like, is it okay? Can I take this shot? Because that's not how basketball works. And guys that have played at a high level, I think, it's interesting. Sometimes those guys push back against analytics because they're like, that's not how the game works when you're out there playing. You're not thinking, well, this is this type of expected field goal percentage or this. You're just going and playing. And that's a great point that's made by a lot of guys, in the NBA that are the best players. So I think it's a balance of that. But certainly, our three-point numbers are going to go up when Courtney shoots better, when Andrew shoots better, and Jace.
Roger?
You touched on Will, as simplistic as it sounds. Does it help for him just to see the ball?
Yes,
go
that was
fast?
great. I made a point in front of the team after the game. He made that basket. It was like the last possession of the game. But that kid is going to be a really, really good player at Texas. And I think he puts – you don't think so, Kirk?
No, I do.
He's gonna prove some people in here wrong. I mean, you didn't think Jared Allen was any good, so that kind of puts some validity.
And he wasn't at Texas until he got to the pros.
That's not true. That's not true.
He turned on after Christmas.
See,
no doubt.
again, if listen, everyone in here has a job to do, and I have a ton of respect for it, but for any of us that haven't played at this high of a level and made a transition from high school, which is what it is, to playing at this level, we can only hope to imagine what that transition is. Now, we have one person on our staff, Jay Lucas, that actually can say, you know what, I did that. I know what that's like. And so our job is to help these guys. Now, we've coached freshmen for a while, so we've seen, the Jarretts, and we've seen, the whole gamut. But he is going to be a good player here as long as he continues to follow the process and learn and improve, and he doesn't allow anyone who maybe doubts him or doesn't think that he's, whatever we think he can be, to infiltrate his mind. And that's a big part of the battle here, regardless of sport. And again, it's not an excuse for them or for me or for our team or anything. It's reality. And so to your point, Roger, that was huge, him seeing the ball go in the basket. I mean, he leads our team right now in three-point shots that have gone in and out. And he's going to be a really good shooter here in time. But it's a process that's going to occur over time. He is not the same as some of the bigs that we've had here, in recent years. That's okay. I think he's okay with that. I'm certainly okay with that. We just want to help him get better every day.
Steven, on your front left.
Yeah, Coach, you've talked about having tryouts in your front court. How did Jericho and Kai's weekend performance kind of sway you, and either way, if they did sway you at all?
Well, Jericho has made a lot of progress this season as a junior. Now the thing that we're looking for from him is just consistency. and to have an understanding of this is what we need from you on a play-in, play-out basis, every single time down the floor. Right now, he's getting a rebound every 3.4 minutes, which is pretty good. It's a significant improvement from where he was. If we can get him at 3, that's excellent. And he's also playing with a level of physicality that is an improvement from where he was, but he still has room to grow. I think the biggest thing with him is for him to understand that we need him to be what we need him to be all the time, not just in this moment or in that moment. And that's still a work in progress with him. But I think he's really made a ton of growth. And when he's playing the way that he did against Cal, it's amazing. For players, this is hopefully a good lesson. That's when, as coaches, we're saying, hey, let's get him out there as much as we can. Let's maybe get him a quick break and then right back in. So that's where the playing time and the role and that stuff kind of works. It all works itself out. In terms of Kai, he's just getting started, but he certainly did help himself in New York.
Kind of going off that a little bit, with Jericho, how do you as a coach and how's your coaching staff instill that mindset in him that we have to be like this consistent every time, night in, night out?
Well, that's where some of the stuff that, those that just focus on basketball probably don't really care about, but that stuff impacts your question and his ability to be a consistent version of what we need him to be. It's about personal growth and development. Talking about a young man that came in here at 18 years old, in some ways needing a lot of growth in, the ability to communicate, the ability to, share his feelings, his thoughts even, to ask for help. And he's made a lot of progress in that. I mean, the guy, as a person, is night and day from where he was when he first got here, and he deserves a ton of credit for working through some challenging situations on and off the court. And then the people that have worked with him, whether it's Kat Hastings, our academic advisor, our strength coaches, our assistant coaches that have spent a time with him, they deserve credit too, because they've helped move him forward as a person. Now, I've said several times, when he's 29 years old, he is going to be a fully formed adult with full confidence, and I truly believe, like, if people will give him the opportunity at that point, then he can play at the highest level of basketball. Now, he's just not there yet in terms of, again, expressing himself and, being who he needs to be at all times. But I do think he's significantly further along in that process than he was when he first got here.
Last one to Anthony.
Happy Thanksgiving, Coach. What are you thankful for? Do you have a favorite Thanksgiving dish? And are you cooking for the team, Coach?
You're the best, Anthony. Glad you asked that question. I actually wanted to say this at the beginning. First thing that I'm thankful for, we had 2 members of the Wounded Warrior Project that basically spent a ton of time around our team in the week leading up to the New York trip, and then they were with us that whole trip everywhere, in the locker room, practice, right behind the bench during the game. And that was Sergeant Bartlett, all right, and Captain Rash. And those guys, I'm thankful for them. And I'm thankful for all the people that they kind of represented for us as a basketball program, which is people that serve our country. Their humility level and passion and commitment to, a greater cause of protecting our country and each other is really, really special. And I learned a lot from them, being around them. And I want those guys to know that they forever will be a part of our team. And I really appreciate them. Also thankful for our players, just giving us the opportunity to push them to be better than they would have been on their own. I mean, this is really the one time in their lives where they've got a ton of people, like over a dozen, that every day are like pushing them with two hands in the back to move aggressively forward. And they'll never really have that again in their life, and they never had it before. And maybe that's what makes it so special and unique for guys like a Connor Lamont or a Javon Felix that are a few years removed. It's hard when you're in the moment to fully appreciate it. But I'm grateful for them. In terms of cooking, no. But we'll definitely, make sure we spend some time together as a program talking about what we're thankful for. I'm also thankful for you guys. Appreciate you. Thanks for giving. Thanks for giving us that motivation to show you that Jared Allen could play.
And Will Baker. Hey, Shaka, you didn't answer his question about favorite dish.
Favorite dish? I love them all. I mean, you can't beat Thanksgiving turkey. I'm one of those people that it's like, you're not supposed to eat bread. All right, but then like on Thanksgiving, it's like I eat like 100 of those rolls. So the great thing about Thanksgiving is like it's like the ultimate cheat meal. Like you can eat whatever you want and it's acceptable. And then the next day you're like, why did I do that? Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Shaka.